welcome Keanin Loomis to the 905er podcast. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on, Roland.
So you're one of the three real kind of prominent candidates who are running for mayor of Hamilton this year, and we already know now that it's going to be a change election. There's going to be a new mayor of Hamilton, um, and I guess we should start off with just what made you decide to run, and what to put it in a more cheeky way, and what makes you think you're the right man for the job.
Okay, well, I get this a lot, so it's a good place to start, I guess, as any. So I've been Hamilton's voice of business for the last 10 years as the president and CEO of the Hamilton Chamber of Commerce. And, we have accomplished a lot as a city over the last decade. It's quite amazing. In fact, when you think about it, we just had Supercrawl this past weekend, and I was at the very first Supercrawl, and it was about the same time that I had moved to Hamilton, which is my wife's hometown, and really the trajectory of Hamilton has gone along in parallel with the trajectory of that incredible event that now happens in downtown Hamilton, and so it's been amazing. The progress that we've made. It's been with us, as the voice of business, working with the not-for-profit community, working with the businesses, working with the leadership community, working with the institutions in this town. We have accomplished a lot, and in all of it, or it seems nearly all of it, has been in spite of our leadership at City Hall. And so, there was only so much I could do, and until I got to a breaking point where I decided that I needed to step up and be the change that we needed to see here in Hamilton. And there's been a lot of things that have happened over the last 4 years that, you'll recall, maybe some of the folks that aren't familiar with Hamilton. There was a major incident at Pride 2019, and a few months after that, the spec broke, that the Hamilton Spectator broke the news that we had been leaking sewage into Coots Paradise for 5 years, and the city knew for at least a couple of years and did not say anything to the residents of Hamilton. And it was sort of those things that started to pile up very early on in this term that's about to finish up, where they just, in my mind, I said I've had enough, and it's hard for me as a leader in this community to sit back and watch things continue to evolve as they have. And so just got to that point where if things are looking good in 2021, early 2022, I think I'm going to make the leap. And I decided that in January, I'm sorry, I stepped down from the Hamilton Chamber of Commerce, announced that I was going to be running for mayor, and I filed my nomination papers on May 2nd. And I truly believe, if you look at my track record over the last 10 years here in this town, that I can do a better job than what's been done. And I know that if you look at my competitors, I can do a better job than them, and than they as well. And it's not about me, particularly. It's about the team that I've always built around me and the people that I've put around me as well. And so what I'm finding is that the sense of change that I intuited, that I have, is shared by tens of thousands of other Hamiltonians, almost pretty much unanimously, really, when we go about the city. And there's a sense that a new generation needs to take over, and that the city is evolving, and City Hall in Hamilton has to evolve with it.
Now, when you spoke about the prominent, really prominent problems, and we didn't even talk about the Red Hill Valley
Oh,
issue.
oh yeah,
I'll just
that's
throw that
playing
into
out
the
it.
mix for you.
Yeah.
The pride and the sewage are plenty. Before we get onto that one, do you think that's is that at the doorstep of a mayor? I mean, can a mayor change that, or is that as much about the kind of culture that exists with the senior staff at City Hall? The way our system works is mayors are kind of chairman of the board, and not
Mhm.
the CEO, if you like.
Right.
How do you deal with? Do you accept that point, or how would you deal with that kind of problem?
Well, I do, but the chair of the board is a pretty important position for an organization. I mean, if the mayor can't impact, the culture in that organization, that is the corporation of the city of Hamilton, then, you know, what are they doing? That's really the point. And the point is that, that so obviously what happens in the mayor's office really matters, but what happens in the mayor's office matters in particular, around that horseshoe, that is city council. And yeah, the mayor might be one of 16 people and one of 16 votes, but the mayor really does, to me, sets the tone. It is the person that is elected by all of Hamilton, and it the mayor is the person that all of council and all the city really look to for guidance, and to set the right tone. And so I think that in particular this year, when we have at least 6 new faces on council plus a new mayor, so we're going to have at least 7 new faces, sitting around that table, then we have an incredible opportunity that Hamilton perhaps has never had, in its entire history, to change the culture, change the tone, and to not, uh, create the type of conditions that cause the leadership in the city. So the public servants that, have done, in some cases, yeah, they could do better, but, in a lot of cases, what they're reacting to is always what they think that the reaction that they're going to get on council. And so you have a lot of people that, as a result, do not, stick their necks out. You see reports that are buried as a result because of the concern of what the reaction is going to be in City Hall. So or at council. So I think that, for sure, the board of directors of that organization, led by the chair, that is the mayor, that is where the tone is set. And we need to hold, not only ourselves accountable as a board of directors, but then, of course, the senior leadership, and then on down through the rest of the community as well. So, like I said, if they don't control the culture, then why are we even bothering doing this, right? Why are we even bothering leading this $2 billion corporation that is the city of Hamilton?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure if your competitors were on the line now, that I'm going to predict that probably the thing they would raise, as why they should be chosen and not you, would be the big E word, which is experience, and that they've both served at other levels of government, both federally, provincially, and also obviously Bob Bratina has been mayor of Hamilton before. Andrea Horvath was leader of the leader of the opposition. I mean, how do you tackle that? I mean, it's all very well to say, well, I've been at the Chamber of Commerce, not quite the same as being, as that kind of track record of elected service as a public servant.
Sure. If years in public service, equate to, I guess, experience, or years as a politician, equate to experience, then fine. But there's many other ways to serve one's community. And, as the head of the chamber, as the voice of business in Hamilton, I've been on, I can't even count the number of committees, in City Hall. I very much understand the processes. I very much understand the players, in that building, and, in the community as well. All the leaders that really are, the folks that, keep this city moving on a daily basis. And I can say that over the last 10 years, among the three of us, nobody has provided more service to our community. Nobody has done more to bring the renewal of the city along. And nobody's done more to advocate for the LRT project, for example, and so many other things. So that is the type of stuff, obviously, that I plan on doing what I did at the Chamber of Commerce, which was transform this 100 and now 76, 77-year-old institution into a modern, very relevant institution. And if I can accomplish what I did at the chamber in the mayor's office, the city will be much better off, and we'll be able to really meet the challenges that we have as a community, and take advantage of the great opportunities that we have as well. My competitors have not been, have not been serving in Hamilton for the last decade. They've been, well, in one case, been living elsewhere, or just really not relevant at all to what's happening here in the city on a daily basis. I understand the issues far better than they do.
Okay, so I mean, and as you know, I mean, full disclosure here, I'm a member through my business of a branch of the Chamber of Commerce. So I guess I'm a member of the Ontario Chamber of Commerce as a whole. But you know, the Chamber of Commerce has not been, you know, they always say Hamilton's a blue collar town, right? And the Chamber of Commerce has, you know, been on the record over the years as you know, pretty much always opposing increases in minimum wage. Uh, Obviously, being on the side of business, that's why the Chamber of Commerce exists. I mean, how do you now sort of position yourself as a progressive voice, which seems to be very much the angle you're going for, I guess. Um, you know, how do you say, well, you know, okay, I opposed wage increases for lower income people a couple of years ago, but now I'm on their side. I mean, how do you square that circle?
Well, so one of the things is, you have to understand what I inherited at the Chamber of Commerce. It was very much, your grandfather's institution. And so, as I said, we made it a very relevant and modern institution that has greatly contributed to the progress that we have seen in the city. And I am very proud of the fact that as I left the organization earlier this year, that the Hamilton Chamber of Commerce was perhaps the most progressive chamber of commerce in the entire nation, and in very well known for our advocacy for transit, for example, for universal basic income pilot as well, and for the retail sale of cannabis in this community when it seems like there was a knee-jerk reaction against embracing this new industry. Complete streets and downtown renewal and all of these things that might not traditionally be associated with a chamber of commerce. When it comes specifically to the bill, I can't remember, was it Bill 168? Was that the one
That
that
sounds familiar.
that we're see, the thing is, we were talking so many years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, in particular, we have to remember that what the politics were at that moment. Kathleen was trying to secure another term, and so basically, what she had done, and the chamber network actually has supported for years increases in the minimum wage tied to inflation, and has implored the government to do that. And the Liberal government failed to do that. And then right before an election decides that they're going to raise the minimum wage by an incredible amount. I think it was 30% in 18 months on the backs of the business community here in Ontario. And so it wasn't just the Hamilton Chamber of Commerce. It wasn't just the Ontario Chamber of Commerce and the entire network. It was all many other business associations that came together and rose up against that. And just because it was too fast, too soon, and we would have much rather have had incremental increases to the minimum wage. That would have been gotten us to where we are now. So, again, context is obviously really matters. Nuance is dead in 2022, however. But obviously, bottom line is, as you alluded to, I was representing the interests of our association and the folks that were aligned behind that pushback against the provincial government, which was just so nakedly political. And so as a result, I'm now in a different position. I'm running to represent 570,000 Hamiltonians, not 1,000 businesses that employ 75,000 people in this community.
And would you still oppose? So, by the sound of it, you would still oppose that increase now, though, if that
Well,
like in a
it was
hypothetical situation, it came forward today.
if it was 30% in 18 months. I think that if you speak to the businesses, yes, they would say that that's far too much too soon, especially as we're coming out of a pandemic. But we did not stand in the way of the incremental increases that have actually been enacted by the provincial government over the last number of years, because they have been far more incremental. And look, we understand that people are hurting. Affordability is a big issue, and so I would not stand in the way of raises to the minimum wage. In fact, we're calling on. I'm supporting a living wage for city employees, putting aside seasonal work, but I think that's something that's really important. I was a living wage employer at the Chamber of Commerce, and I think that's really important that we do that as a city as well.
Okay, so let's talk about your kind of vision for the city, if you like. I mean, one of the things that I know Joel and I have kind of, and we're not picking on Hamilton here, but we've kind of been critical of this across the board in the races across the province, is that and I will say, in all fairness, I mean, you were out the gate first in terms of your campaign, and you've had your kind of policies up on your website for quite a lot of time.
Mhm.
I believe Andrea Horvath has kind of announced hers today, I think,
Okay.
earlier
Yeah.
today. Um, uh, you know, what is your vision, if you like? What do you think? Well, let's put it another way. What are the main challenges for Hamilton over the next 4 years? And what would you see as your kind of the toughest cookie to kind of deal with if you were elected?
Yeah. Well, we already talked about it. Culture change at City Hall is first and foremost on my mind. I always say, you can't, if you don't have a healthy culture within the organization, it's hard to do anything else right, right? And again, we have so many challenges, so many opportunities. What we need to do first and foremost is restore truth, trust, and transparency in City Hall. And as I said, we have a tremendous opportunity with at least 7 new faces around the council table this year. So I think that very immediately you'll see a major shift, and then then very gradually do we continue to improve the culture of that organization down through the rest of the organization. Um, you know, Obviously, affordability and homelessness are big issues at this point in time. We just announced a plan to build 50,000 new homes in Hamilton over the next 10 years, and create 5,000 new jobs in Hamilton over the next 5 years, because you got to have jobs for all those new folks that are coming into the city. And the supply of housing is one of the biggest drivers of unaffordability. And part of that 50,000 is working with affordable housing providers. It's also encouraging the creation of in-law suites and really being able to facilitate that as a community. And I think that in through that process, we'll be able to find a lot more homes for folks, and really make a dent in the affordability crisis. One of the other things that obviously that is going to be facing us as a community is building LRT and building what will be a complex transit system in a fairly archaic downtown. So there's going to be a lot of challenges related to that, but just because it's going to be a little inconvenient doesn't mean that, it doesn't make it the reason to not do this, right? It's really important to the future of this community and to our jobs plan and our housing plan, and all of that as well. And so, you talk about what I'm focused on, and yes, it's a lot of really short-term stuff and stuff that we need to immediately address, but ultimately, what I'm looking to bring to the table is that business voice, is that governance perspective. I'm also, a board member at the Hamilton Oshawa Port Authority, and so I bring that experience to this, as again, as you mentioned, the mayor being the chair of the board of directors. And we very much have to be focused beyond the next election cycle, and beyond the next election cycle after that, and the next election cycle after that, and really focus in. And this is where the province is helping us. The province is saying to all communities in Ontario, plan to be that city of in 2050, and in Hamilton's case, the city of 800,000 people in 2050. So we're 570, 580,000 right now. So how are we going to get there, and what are the decisions that we need to make right now to get us ultimately there? And 2050 is, when my children are going to be in their 20s and in their 30s, and I'm always very focused on where are they going to live, because I want them out of my house eventually. And I think all of us as parents, wonder how the heck are our kids going to be able to afford to live on their own? Which means, of course, that as well that they need good jobs. And I think about how they're going to be interacting with and moving about their city in 2050. And that means that, we need to build Beeline LRT, but we need to be planning for the next project while we build Beeline LRT so that we're ready to go and start building that once Beeline LRT is done, and so on and so forth. So we get through that 25-year transit strategy that sees us build 5 transit lines across the city. And lo and behold, that lands us in 2050. And I think allows us to be that city of 800,000. So that's where I'm not, I don't wear the, I guess by definition, I am now a politician. I don't wear that lightly. I cringe when people say that. But that's where I'm different, and I'm not, your typical politician who's just focused on being reelected. I'm looking to bring real leadership to the city, the leadership that this city has been thirsting for, and the type of leadership that really makes a difference in the lives of Hamiltonians now and in 2050.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, certainly just about any politician running for office at any level will say the leadership word, strong leadership. It's kind of like the 2 words you start off with because everybody expects to hear them, right? Um, what does that mean? What does strong leader actually mean? I mean, does is that a kind of, you can expect obedience and loyalty from your councillors? Are you going to? I mean, is it my way or the highway? I mean, obviously, I'm putting those in strong terms, and I know you're going to say no when I say my way or the highway. But traditionally we think of politics in a very top-down way, and I'm thinking of things like, we have all these advisory committees. Something that I've always been very keen on is improving citizen, what's called citizen engagement, which is one of those phrases that gets bandied around, and most people don't really know what it means, other than it's a buzzword that you can put on a leaflet. How do you, as kind of the lowest level of government in this area, empower the people of Hamilton to play a more positive role, maybe in how the city makes its decisions?
It might be the lowest level, but it's the most important level, certainly to
I'd agree there. I would completely agree there.
the citizens of this community, because we interact with the city in almost every way. And so for me, this is one of the amazing things that I have experienced as I began running, was, reaching out to various communities, and not just, demographic communities, but communities around the center of this city as well. And, folks who don't know Hamilton well might not realize just how big it is as a city, double, I think, the landmass as Toronto. And yet 70% of the city is rural and is farmland. And so we have all of these various communities that still suffer from a little bit of a hangover from amalgamation in the early 2000s. And though that's fading, what they still are telling us, whether it's the LGBTQ community or the Black community or the Indigenous community or the Pakistani community or the community of Binbrook or the community of Dundas or Stony Creek or what have you, they do not feel heard by or connected to their city. So what we are doing is very importantly, we need to reimagine how we use that committee structure. I've talked to so many folks from, for example, the Senior Advisor Committee or the Indigenous Circle, that they have been asked by the city to come and play a role, but they're not being listened to. So you've got your experts right there. You're appointing them as experts, and you're not even listening to them, let alone the broader communities that they represent. And so one of the things we did announce is a town hall tour. And so I promised to do a town hall in every single ward across the city in my first year. So all 15 wards in conjunction with that counselor. And that's a good way of building rapport with that counselor as well. And really identifying the issues in each of those communities that the folks there are focused on. And so, in the lead up to the election, we're demonstrating that commitment by doing a town hall tour across Hamilton. So on Wednesday as we open up our new office in Stony Creek. We're doing our Stony Creek town hall, and then we're going out to Dundas, Ancaster, Binbrook. We're doing one on the mountain and one in the lower city, and trying to get in as many other types of engagements as I can between the election. And it's been absolutely amazing the type of response that we have gotten, whether I show up to the Trieste Bocce Club tournament as I did yesterday, or a Filipino stag and doe on Saturday night, or Supercrawl, or like I said, this town hall that we're having in Stony Creek. People are just really happy that A, somebody showed up, and B, that they're listening. And then ultimately, we're going to take those relationships that we're building in the lead up to the election, through the election, and really have, as I said, a completely new culture of engagement and of progress, and really focusing on getting rid of all of the negative energy and the time that we're wasting on dealing with bully counselors, and focused on our meeting our challenges and our opportunities together as a community. And I think that people are really excited about that, and we're getting a lot of traction for sure.
It is. I mean, of all the things, I mean, I'm new Hamiltonian. I was lived most of the previous 20 years in Burlington, and
Yeah.
arrived in Hamilton
Welcome.
literally about 12 months ago. Thank you, I appreciate that. And actually, I've really enjoyed the experience of moving to a different kind of city. No disrespect whatsoever to Burlington. It's just Hamilton and Burlington are very different places, and I don't think anybody would doubt that.
And Hamilton's just such an amazing place. It really, really is.
it,
I absolutely love it.
it's got all the good bones. I think it's this location, and it's one of the most beautiful locations that is available in Ontario. And
I agree.
it's like yeah. But yeah, the one thing that has struck me is that you mentioned the hangover from amalgamation, which is good as me a long time ago now. But that seems to have been very much at the core of many of the things. And I mean, the whole LRT debate, which hopefully is over, fingers crossed.
I believe so.
Seemed really about people who don't live in downtown Hamilton, who don't come to downtown Hamilton very much, who aren't even that happy about being considered part of Hamilton, going, well, why that? I don't care. I don't want money spent on this thing that I'm never going to use, and then kind of outnumbering downtown Hamiltonians who are like, we need this desperately.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think you can overcome that division? Because it seems to me that it's still very much a thing. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see how this election shakes down, I think, because of that, because the kind of suburban Hamilton, or suburban and rural Hamilton, are still feel so kind of divorced from the whole.
Yeah. I think that's fading. I think that that's just a function of time, on the one hand. And on the other hand, I think that people are really, truly amazed by the progress that the city has achieved over the last 10 years. And I think that people are much more willing to come downtown, to eat, to go to Supercrawl, to take, advantage of shows, or culture, or arts, or what have you. Um, there's I think most people want to be associated with a thriving center of their city. And you know the there was this feeling like people's taxes went up hugely in a matter of like overnight, right, when amalgamation happened. And so there was this resentment that all of this money is going into downtown. But what I have found is that, especially when it comes to LRT, for example, which I've been advocating for well over a decade, that if I can explain to them why this investment is important, and not just for the downtown, but for the entire city, how it's unlocked this amazing amount of development. You can see the cranes right now, and the LRT hasn't even started yet. But you talk to those developers, and they will tell you the reason why they are investing in downtown Hamilton is because of the LRT. If you help them understand, especially after Sewergate, how it's important to our underground infrastructure as well, in this aged corridor, 14-kilometer corridor, we are going to have entirely new infrastructure all along the way. and how, right now the Beeline bus, or maybe not right now, but before COVID, the Beeline bus had the ridership necessary to carry to justify that project. And again, you unlock the development, and so it further feeds the business case. And then the fact that this is just one of 5 transit lines that are planned across Hamilton over the next 25 years is the 25-year transit strategy. It's called Blast. And so this is the first one because, again, the ridership exists there, but this is going to completely reorient and be the spine for that future transit system that will allow us to be that city of 800,000 people, and that, that will reach into every corner of this community. Now, people get that, and they understand the need for this type of investment. And so that's been the thing where I don't feel like our current leadership has really sold it in that way. And as I say, if I can spend 5 minutes with your average Hamiltonian who will never come downtown or will never use it, and explain all of that, for the most part, they get it. And they start to come along. They're, if you fill in people's vision for them, because not many people, have that ability to see beyond the horizon. Then people start to get really excited about that, and they'll support it, and they'll say, okay, when's which line will reach into my community, because let's get to work on that as well. So and then as well, I talk to a lot of older people, and they, oh, this is going to be, but then if you say, but this is okay, this is not for you, right? And it's not, but this is for your kids and your grandkids and the next generation after that. And people start to really get it. They come around, and for the most part, we're able to reach consensus. And we've got to a point where, you even see Bob Bertina, who has done everything he can to put a stick in the spokes of LRT. Even he has accepted that it's coming. I don't trust that he still won't try to undermine it every possible step along the way. But he gets it now, apparently, as well, and most people do. Most people just want to build this thing and move on.
So we're drawing to the close of our time, I see here. But so I'll finish off with a couple of questions, a kind of tough question, and hopefully a less tough, more
Okay.
fun question. Um, the tough question being, I guess, the single worst thing about municipal elections, which is the name recognition problem.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me there are 3 credible candidates in this race. And you're unfortunately the one with who lacks the name recognition of the other 2. And one of them, one's been around mayor before, one of them's had all the publicity that comes with being a leader of the opposition. How do you overcome that problem, and kind of turn the tables, I guess, on the traditional way that municipal elections work, which is who's the most famous?
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. Although I'm finding that name recognition also works the other way,
Sure.
if you're
Yeah.
not liked.
Hmm.
So we're getting that a lot. Anybody but, fill in the blank, and they've arrived at us, and our exciting platform, and our promise for change. Um, but really, to me, it's just been about earning people's votes, and being out there. As I said, I was all in from January when I announced that I was stepping down from the chamber to run for mayor. I've been all in ever since. I filed on the very first day. I have been everywhere in this community, to every event, every neighborhood, and it has been, and to a whole lot of doors. It's just been absolutely incredible, and that's how you do it, right? You introduce yourself to the voters in person, and not assume that you're just going to be skating by on name recognition, not taking the voters for granted, putting in the work, and people are seeing that. And I will, I know that we are surging, so we're definitely closing the gap, and we will ultimately, and the only poll that matters is election day, and I think we're in a really good position. So it's really just about hard work, and this is the type of town that rewards hard work, that appreciates an underdog, and sees when people are working really hard, to earn their favor. So that's been how we've been doing it, and the feedback that we've been getting is amazing.
So, and I'm going to, yeah, my final question, my more fun question, maybe. I'm going to divide into two parts actually, which is first of all, you know, independent of which candidate anybody listening might favor or vote for. I think getting involved in elections is you know, we say that politicians won't listen to us, and then we never make the effort to go and speak to them. And you know, the simple fact of the matter is that you might love to go to every single door in Hamilton between now and the end of October or the middle of October, but you can't do that. It's physically impossible. Um, uh, and you know, the division between you know, people say politicians don't listen. It's like the one thing they do is listen. Sometimes they listen too much. uh, how would you encourage someone who's thinking, you know what, this is an important election, I want to get involved in a campaign? What would you say to them to sort of encourage them to come out and get involved in a campaign, and what could they get out of it? And then sort of part B of that question is really just from the one of the, I mean, I was a candidate 4 years ago, and I was surprised how much I absolutely loved knocking on doors and meeting people. It was the most endlessly entertaining
I
thing.
agree.
I mean, I met someone who'd been married to one of the pilots on the Dam Busters planes. I met just incredible people day in, day out. I mean, funny people, angry people, you know, just all sorts.
Yeah.
What's your kind of most surprising or funniest kind of thing that's happened to you so far as you've been knocking on doors? And that's my B part to that
Yeah.
final
Okay.
question.
So number one, if somebody wants to get involved, do it. Like you will be rewarded because you get the opportunity to go to doors, or if that's not your thing, we have a lot of folks helping out with at festivals, a lot of folks helping out behind the scenes as well. And you build a lot of camaraderie through this, trial by fire. And we have over 200 volunteers now, which is amazing. And so many folks who have told me that they've never been involved before, but they just couldn't help but be inspired by, the change that I'm trying to represent here. And so they finally got off their seats and decided to participate. And they have been so rewarded in the process. So I would say definitely do that, because as you said, you'll be amazed. It doesn't take long to really get comfortable going door to door. And I was reticent to do it. I've actually never been involved in a campaign myself either. And I was reticent to do it. And yet, you just keep knocking. And then ultimately you have you kind of have a little bit of a track that you say at every door. But then, as you're right, as people will challenge you or tell you funny stories or what have you, um, you really get into much more rich conversations with folks that are ultimately your neighbors. And so I'm an introvert actually, so it's a lot for me to really like push myself to be out there. And now I'm out there and fully, and now I'm like, hey, look at me, I'm attention starved. Now, almost.
And
I don't know what's going to happen after the election, but it is so absolutely rewarding. And I would say the thing that has been most amazing to me is the number of people that, especially seniors, who are telling me that they're voting for me because we need fresh faces and we need new generational leadership in this community. And I really did think that ultimately, because they have been so comfortable with perhaps my competitors, or so familiar with them over the last number of decades, that they were going to settle on one of them. But what I hear, again, I was at Trieste Bocce Club yesterday, and all 200 of those folks there, primarily Italian, but definitely older, um, said they were voting for me and were really excited about my candidacy. And that has just been so heartwarming. I've done retirement homes. I'm now, as you said, like I've almost gotten addicted to it. And it's been absolutely amazing. And like I said, the most surprising thing is the seniors who are saying that, I'm going with the kid, and they point to me, and I'm like, oh, I guess that's me.
Well,
I'll take it. At
that's certainly
47, I'll
nice,
take
isn't it?
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Keanin Loomis, thanks so much. We wish you all the best with your campaign, and we really appreciate every candidate who joins us on the podcast and takes the time to speak to our listeners. We really thank you for that, and as we would wish all candidates, we wish you all the best with the campaign, and have fun between now and election day.
Thanks, Roland. I've had so much fun. I can't wait. It is going to be super intense, but I will never regret doing this. It's been such a thrilling experience, and so rewarding. So regardless of the outcome, this has been amazing.
Thank you.
All right. Be well.
I'm just gonna make sure I've